Hello everyone. It's good to see you guys. Welcome to my Satur-Dye Night Live show. Tonight we're going to talk about warm colors, cool colors, and neutral colors. And I have some yarn fails to reveal to you. They just happened yesterday. And I didn't cry because I knew that I could fix it by learning from it, right? It's not necessarily a failure. It's a learning opportunity. Hello, Terry. Hello, Kirsten. When you are here, you better be commenting hello to me. And if you want, say where you're from. Terry at Smart Parts, she has yarn of mine on her website, smartpartscrafts.com. Terry, would you please put in the link to that, to your website, because she has colorways that aren't in my shop. Hey, Wanda, how are you? Comment that you're here. Okay, I'm going to start with a few announcements. Yeah, so Terry, comment with your website, would you? I'm going to be turning you guys around so that you can see in the light box. Okay. Can you spot the yarn fail? Ba-bum! It's all right, right? Okay, so just a few announcements. My brain gets like kind of fuzzy whenever I start these things, so it's just better if I write it all down. So yes, good to see you. And I have a microphone on, my friends, so if the sound is better than usual, I need to know. If the sound sounds exactly the same, then let me know that too. I'm kind of testing out this lapel mic. Okay, so what is Fairy Yarn Mother? Fairy Yarn Mother is an idea that my friend had because she is doing something that we call cold sheeping. And that means she's not buying any yarn for herself. And she did it for a year. She was a trooper for 2019 and she's continuing in to 2020. So what she did come up with this idea of is she goes, hey, can I give you some money, 10 or 20 bucks, and that would buy yarn for someone else. And so I thought of, well, yes, you can be someone's fairy yarn mother. So in my Etsy shop, I just made a little put together listing. If you want, it's in increments of $10. So for example, one of my other friends bought yarn and shipped it to a specific recipient. And then another friend of mine just gave me, $20, $30. And then I already had someone in mind in my church group and my knitting ministry who's never worked with hand-dyed yarn. And she's a retiree. So it's one of those things where when someone's in need, we can assist them, and the love of yarn runs deep. All right, the Casa Pinka pattern. So you guys know that or you may not know, this might be news to you, that I will have codes for the free Casa Pinka pattern called the Hug Shot Shawl. Below is a sneak peek. I'm working it because the yarn dyers and the little yarn shops got the pattern ahead of time, and I'm working it up with God of Thunder, and this looks amazing. This is my favorite part of this whole pattern here. Alexa, turn the volume down to a 3. So this is my favorite part of this whole pattern, and I had never done anything like it before. Hey, bud. So yes. So what I did was I carried the white part of the God of Thunder, and I switched it out whenever there was just too much blue. And so I'll show you what I'm talking about. So the God of Thunder yarn, this undyed part comes in completely random. So when I was balling this up, I noticed that all of the white was basically in the middle, and so all of the dyed yarn came to the outside. So hey, Laura. Yes, Laura likes God of Thunder. She crocheted a cool vest with some worsted God of Thunder. So I just switch out the white whenever I'm like, man, the white hadn't shown up in a while. So I put like a little streak of it there. So Kirsten, you asked what stitch this is. It's super cool because it's just on the wrong side. You put the yarn to the front. No, wait, I need to get this right. You put the yarn in the front and then you slip a stitch purlwise, put the yarn in the back, and then you knit the next stitch, which creates this really cool little, you can see it right there, this cool little like rope in the front. And it's every other, right? It alternates. It's just super cool. And it looks like I don't even have to block this. I mean, it's super flat. So this is the preview of the Casa Pinka Hug Shot. I do have, yeah, both sides are cool looking. And so I'll show you the yarn that I worked up. Oh gosh, the Velcro on this light box catches my yarn sometimes. I want to cry. This is God of Thunder, and this is my unnamed gradient where it's just gradient like from light gray to dark gray. And you can kind of see how it moves in this very bottom part. It's almost like a boomerang, not the shape of the shawl, but what I mean is like the color goes dark, light, dark, light. So it's almost like boomeranging back and forth. So it's kind of a variegated, but I like to call it a gradient because, oh, Belinda, I think that this pattern is much easier than the Breathe and Hope Casa Pinka shawl. So I would rate this as an easy, as far as being able to repetitively just learn a new stitch. So beginner knitters who are ready for more than just knit and purl, they can go to this shawl, and then of course with the help of a friend, because remember you've got to carry 2 yarns. And again, the repetition of this, it's a good teaching shawl, just like Breathe and Hope was. And I love how the gray is just like splintering in with this blue. Because remember, the God of Thunder is the God of thunder. So the clouds, the rain, and the lightning is the white part. Okay, let's keep myself on track here and then we'll get to dyeing some yarn. So the Virtual Fiber Fest, mark your calendars for June 13th and 14th. It's going to be on Facebook. You can just search Virtual Fiber Fest. My slot is going to be the 14th at 4 p.m. Eastern, which is 3 p.m. Central, on Sunday, June 14th. Yeah, so of course, like earlier this month, we had a Virtual Fiber Fest, and that was a lot of fun. If you guys, I know Belinda has a little fried egg stitch marker. I gave those out to the first 10 orders. So that'll be happening again. And now this is the last thing I'm going to talk about before we get to our lesson tonight. I'm going to start creating Yarn Dyeing 101 teaching kits. So what will you get with your kits? You'll get 2 skeins of undyed yarn. You'll get 6 packets of Kool-Aid to use. You'll get a how-to guide that will teach you and make you giggle. And you'll get 3 free patterns to knit up your yarn. And that is, of course, in addition to having access to the private Facebook group called Yarn Nerds. And I haven't even made this yet, okay? Y'all are like seeing the depths of my brain when I get these ideas, and the ones that come true are the ones that I'm really having fun with. So I'm creating these Yarn Dyeing 101 kits, and with the purchase of the kit is also going to be the purchase of your group lesson. So the group lesson is going to happen, and only those who have paid for a kit are going to be invited, and it's going to be, super personal but online, and then you'll have access to ask questions and show your progress in the group for 30 days after that. So Kelly, where do you sign up? You're gonna get more details. Just message me. The first Friday of the month is Yarn Dyeing 101. So June the 5th, I'm going to be having the personal protective equipment lesson, but that's going to be separate from these kits. So I'm going to continue with the first Friday of free lessons, but focusing on certain best practices and things like that. But the kits are going to be in the secret group where I am showing you what to do. You have access to me live right there. It's just us. And it's going to be super fun. And you get 2 skeins of yarn to dye. Okay, who's ready for tonight's lesson? Raise your hand, say me. One of these skeins is not like the other. Which ones are my yarn fails, y'all? You won't hurt my feelings. I hurt my own feelings yesterday when I made these. One of them is not like the other 2. Who thinks that there's 2 yarn fails, and which ones are they? We'll just say that this is skein 1, skein 2, skein 3. Which ones are the fails? And don't say none. There's one that's like a half fail. Yes. What's the other fail? Yep, the gray one. Super fail. But I did learn a lot from this little skein. Of course, this one is the one that turned out pretty darn nice. Yeah, so this one is our cool skein. And I personally prefer cool colors in my knitting. Obviously, I love the God of Thunder and I love the Pesky Pixie. So this one is just the second half of the Roy G. Biv. Okay, so you guys are on the money. Skeins 1 and 2 didn't turn out exactly as I intended. Skein 3 is like rocking my world. So this is the last half of the Roy G. Biv. It is the G Biv, so green, blue, and violet. And I'll show you because we're going to actually dye up this exact skein in just a moment. This is the first half of the Roy G. Biv. So you can already see that the reason why I'm calling this one a fail, like a semi-fail, a quasi-fail, okay, y'all, is because it just looks like semi-solid orange. So Wanda had a good question last week. She goes, well, what is a semi-solid? And so a semi-solid is like one color, but you have lighter parts and darker parts. And so this kind of just reminds me of semi-solid, even variegated with some yellow and some orange. But really, I used three separate dyes. I used a red, an orange, and a yellow, and this is what I got. So too high of a water level. The color was able to move way too freely, and it mixed together. Now, even though this by itself it's not necessarily a fail, it's not what I was going after. So I'm going to already teach you what I learned from this skein. Okay. Bam, 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 bam. This is my neutral skein. I don't want to hurt its feelings, but it's really not that cute. So I'm going to teach you what I learned from this skein here in a moment when we go to the dye pots. Okay. Speaking of dye pots, let's go ahead and go. Now the pots are cold. Usually I'm all like, the pots are hot. They're cold, and I'll explain why. Yeah, see, the orange could have been pretty. Ain't nobody saying that about that gray one. So let's learn. Instead of calling it a fail, I shouldn't have called it a fail. Let's just learn from it. So let's go to the pot where we have the most to learn, which is that neutral. I'm going to get you guys up on my selfie stick so that you can see. And remember, any questions that you have, you just jump right on in. Now, unfortunately, this pot is a little bit dark, so it's going to be easier to see once I get the yarn in there. Let me go squeeze out the water and I'll be right back. You always got to squeeze out the water out of your skein. It needs to be soaked. And this is kind of like one of those sneak peeks into the Yarn 101, is it needs to be soaked in a little water vinegar bath for at least 30 minutes before you attempt to dye it. Okay, so like a cinnamon swirl, I have put the yarn in the pot and I have made sure that my water level is low. So the yarn is breaking the surface of the water, and it's actually more than just breaking the surface. There's no movement of water. The gray was your favorite, Faye. Well, oh, and Terry, the gray one is what your hairstylist sees after your quarantine. Hey, then maybe these skeins, maybe I should just repeat. Every yarn, I am a firm believer that every yarn has a home. Okay, so my neutral colors that I have chosen are black, gray, and ecru, or like an off-white. Now, ecru is very, very powdery. It looks like a tan color. And there are sometimes, y'all, when ecru has blue in it, it could have red in it. It's almost like a proceed with caution type of thing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my tongs. I've shown you guys this before in a previous Satur-Dye Night Live, of pinching up the yarn, especially when the water level is low. You can really get away with doing this. But I don't want this color to be moving around like it did earlier, so I'm going to make little barricades, little walls. I don't want the yarn, like smoothing around in there. If you're wondering what this blue yarn is, it is an acrylic piece of scrap yarn that I just tie around the skein so that it's easy for me to find the actual end when all of it comes out. Okay. Mask on to protect myself from dust, and then of course when the yarn is cooking, to protect yourself from fumes. And I'm going to start with the ecru because the ecru a little bit goes a tiny ways, so you have to have tons. And I just sprinkle it right on. It's like you almost need double. Tonight's tip, always, always, always put the cap right back on. Don't ever leave a jar of yarn sitting there on the table, begging to be knocked to the floor. That's what it sits there and says. It's like, please knock me to the floor. All right, now notice we have quadrants. So my plan is, and we only had 3 colors. So my plan is, I'm going to have the ecru and the undyed opposite one another. I'm going to have the black and the silver, which are the darker of the colors, opposite one another, so that whenever the yarn is moving in someone's work, it's not just like dark, 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 light, light, light. It's dark, light, dark, light. I plan out most of my colorways that way. If I've got 4 colors, 2 are going to be lighter than the others, 2 are going to be darker, perhaps. If they're all dark, then whatever. Just do whatever you want. All right. Little bit of black goes a very long way. And I want to be pretty good about spreading this out. Black spreads quick, as you can see. Now in a moment, I'm going to spread this. And remember, the other golden rule of dyeing yarn. See? It fell to the floor, but it was closed. And I don't even want to say out loud that I've never had a jar of dye powder hit the floor without a... I don't even want to say that out loud, but I think I just did. Don't tell anybody that I said that. All right, here we go with the gray. Another very powdery, spreads really well. Love, y'all can see that. The gray and the ecru are kind of like cousins. And remember, I don't ever want to put more dye than I'm comfortable with, because I can always go in and add more. All right, so we sprinkled, now we spread. This is my sprinkle and spread method. I know for a fact that this ecru, whenever it's on the yarn, it like attaches itself to my metal measuring spoon. So I'm going to leave that one there to think about its behavior. And I'm going to start spreading the black. With a low water level, I know right now that it's not going to be going all the way to the very bottom of the yarn, touching the pot. I am going to have to flip this skein of yarn. So really, the finished product here is not going to match at all with that flop of a skein that I showed you. I mean, that, I don't want to call it a flop. It was my rough draft. So what'd you guys do for Memorial Day? I can't believe that May is already over and done with. We didn't do much on Memorial Day, I don't think, but I did celebrate my 9th anniversary with my husband last night. We went to Eddie V's. Seafood. And I got the New York strip. Only ate about a third of it. That thing was massive. What'd y'all do on Memorial Day? Just comment below. Let me know you're still here. This is a test. Have you put your phone down to go eat dinner? And you're just being nice by leaving me on your phone? All right, undyed portion remains undyed. Thank you, Terry. Yeah, 9 years. This goes by so fast. All right, we're going to turn on our heat. Remember, we don't want boiling, simmering craziness. We just want a nice, steamy type of environment. Thank y'all so much. I mean, already, y'all, this looks so much better. So much better. All right, put the lid on that one. All right. So you're going to notice that this one is already yellow. This is the remnants of the skein that I dyed that was that semi-solid orange. So we're going to learn from that skein and do something a little different. I'm going to show y'all. Do I want to show y'all? Comment below. Do y'all want to see like a top secret dye method that I've never shown anybody before? I'd love to know if you want to know all my secrets. It's kind of out of commission, really. So Laura, you stayed home? Yeah, that sounds good too. This was kind of one of those Memorial Days where staying home was actually just totally fine. All right. Okay, y'all. I'm going to show you. What kind of pot lid do you use? Is it metal? Oh, are you speaking of this, Kelly? This, this is from Goodwill, and it's got these holes in it. So I put foil to keep the steam from rising out. And this is the foil that I put on originally. So it's like, probably 7 years old. No big deal. It does its job. Okay, I'm gonna show you guys something I call the ice cream cone method. Let me get my little skein of yarn here. I'm gonna turn the pot on high, but of course crock pots are slow, so it's not gonna be like boiling. Just hold, please. Okay, so the reason why I'm choosing this method of dyeing is because I know from my color theory that red plus yellow equals orange. So my ice cream cone method is just to kind of swirl it in to keep part of it out. Oh dear. So to keep part of the skein of yarn completely out of the water. I know that the yellow is already down there. Okay, so what I'm going to do real quick is get some water in one of my jars that I always have just sitting around, and I'm going to make a dye stock real quick. So water in the jar, Little bit of vinegar in the jar. Okay, we're ready to make a dye stock. Don't you worry that there's a little bit of blue in there. I'm not afraid because I'm putting in a really strong red. Okay. I'm putting in a good almost quarter teaspoon. Okay. So right now that yellow is already soaking into the bottom half of that skein. This is so much fun. I invented this dye method, gosh, it was probably before my son was born. I was watching a lot of Downton Abbey, and I invented this color method just to play around. That's one of the most fun things about allowing yourself to just experiment with yarn and fully like being accepting of what's going to come out of the pot. All right, so we got the yellow down there. Let's go in with our orange. This is called golden yellow, but you know, don't pay attention to what the color name is. So we're going to sprinkle this golden yellow. And it's okay if it goes a little bit into the water, no biggie. We don't want to overdo it. And of course, I'm not really correcting my mistake from earlier. I'm just doing something totally different. Okay, here comes the fun part. Remember our red dye stock that we made? Oh. Thank you, Belinda. You can hear me better with the microphone not so close, so it's like too loud. I really do need to know these things. Okay, I'm going to try that. It's on the lid. Let me know because I'm testing this out for the virtual Fiber Fest in mid-June. So what kind of red? I used crimson. Okay, now crimson. Here we go. Pour it in the middle. Just pour it. Oh my gosh. It just goes in the middle. And then yeah, some of it's going to seep out underneath. And it just goes wherever it wants to go. So crazy. So good. Now I'm noticing, okay, I want more yellow in there. So I am going to put more yellow. When I was first starting out, I had this colorway called Candy Shop, and this is exactly what it looked like. Now, for this powder that's just sitting there, it's going to show up like a speckle. I don't want to put all of the yarn underneath the water, so what I'm doing, I'm just kind of like tapping it down because the yarn is damp. And then I'm going into the water, wetting my measuring spoon, and then just kind of like tapping it again. Less feedback at the distance. Oh, good. I didn't realize because, you know, I can't hear. So thank you for your feedback. Okay. Yeah, that's really good to know, Belinda. Thank you so very much. All right. It's on high. And this is going to be like a non-repeatable colorway if you just kind of walk away and don't know what you're doing. Now, if you're wanting to really repeat something like this, get your phone, press record, and tell yourself exactly what you just did. Now, when you cover this up, you're going to leave it alone for a very long time because you want that red to be true. You want the orange and the yellow, this yellow on the edge is going to be true too because that yarn is like holding that red in there. So now I'm going to show you the one that wasn't so bad. So this is going to be the G-Biv part of our rainbow. And you're like, but Ashley, you're not starting with a clean pot of water. That's preposterous. And I say to myself, nope, that's not preposterous because it's gonna be blue anyway. So Terry, how long? It depends. In a crock pot, if it doesn't heat up very quickly, it could be, an hour, 2 hours. If it's already boiling hot water, it could be just a matter of minutes, and then you want to set it for another 10 minutes. But I always just look inside the water. If the water still has color in it, I just leave it. And sometimes I shut the pots off and I go to bed, and in the morning, when it's all gone to room temperature, it's all absorbed, and what we call that is exhausted. Okay, these are my colors too, Kelly. I love these colors. And again, looking at our sample skein, this is what this one's going to look like. Now, the water is cold. This is key to doing this kind of method. This is my color play method, where I'm just going to put you right there. This is my color play method where I put the dye in, and then I put the yarn in after. So a couple of things. You have to have yarn that is squeezed out and ready. So I'm going to have my yarn squeezed out right now, and I'm going to have it in this bowl right next to me. So hold please. All right, yarn is ready, and the little acrylic yarn that I pick it up with is on the top. My water is cold. Hot water is going to make the dye powder move around really quickly, okay? Now, the reason why I invented this method is when I had a newborn baby, Milesy, and so I've been doing this method for years now because he's almost 6, and I needed a way to dye yarn so that I could not spend so much time at the pot and spend more time with him, obviously. So I just said, all right, I am just going to figure out if I can just put the dye in, put the yarn in, run. Okay, that's kind of my method here. So watch this. You have to break the golden rule and have your jars of dye uncapped. You have to have your yarn ready to go. I've got purple, true purple, sapphire blue, and emerald. A little bit of emerald goes such a long way. And I want to go in order. So like not, purple, green, blue. I want to go in order of the rainbow. So green, blue, purple. All right, here we go. Little bit of green. Not a lot. Right on the edge. And see how it just kind of sits there. Cap it, clean off your measuring spoon, go for the blue. Little bit more blue, but I don't want it to overpower, so just about the same amount, maybe just a tad bit more. Okay, cap it, clean it, purple. Now the water level is pretty low, so we're going to have white yarn breaking the surface, not getting dye on it, but I will show you what to do, friends. Don't I always? Okay, in with the yarn. Right on top of that dye. Tongs. Little bit of spreading, just kind of pushing it down in there. And then we do a little bit of sprinkle and spread. Now see that green? It's almost taking over. I'm probably not going to sprinkle any green. Oh, I love that purple. All right, so here we go again with the sapphire blue. Now the trick is you really have to sprinkle and spread quickly. You do not want half of your skein looking speckled and half of your skein looking like flowy colors. Or maybe you do. It's your yarn. Comment below if you're interested in that Yarn 101 kit in the private lesson, the private group lesson, because I really need to know who to contact. I've got like a beta testing group, and I want you guys in on the beta testing group. All right, so I added more of my blue. I'm gonna add some more purple. Not too much, because I don't want it to take over. Hi, bud. Sprinkling and spreading. Moving it around just a little bit. The water level is perfect. I'm going to have to add some more green, but you know what? This is what I'm going to do. I'm going to be smart. Okay, so Kelly, you want some Yarn Dyeing 101 kit info? I'll add you to the beta testing group. Kelly, send me a friend request if we aren't already friends. Since I know green is very powerful, I am going to just take, here's another little tip. You can pick up color in your measuring spoon and place it somewhere else in your skein. It's pretty fun. So yeah, and really, now that I think about it, that's all I needed to do. I did not need to add any more dye. So I'm glad I didn't. Now y'all know that all of these skeins that I do on my Satur-Dye Night Live, they are for sale in my Etsy shop. And they're some of the most affordable because they are worsted weight, Highland wool, non-superwash. This is turning out gorgeous. It may not be an exact replica, but I mean, who cares? Both are gorgeous. Let's check on Little Miss Ice Cream Cone. Yeah. So this is getting more orange. Totally fine with that. I've really got my eye on this yellow. And there's even going to be parts of the yarn that are undyed because of the twist in the skein, not allowing color to come through. Totally fine with that too. This is actually reminding me a lot of Candy Shop. All right, let's check on the massive fail yarn. Quarantine Roots is what I'm going to call this one. What do y'all think? Quarantine Roots. Aw, that's cute. Hey, you know, every skein of yarn has its place in this world. Not bad. Yeah, they do look like a sunset, Kelly, you're right. And of course, I always like the undyed. Yeah, so maybe Quarantine Roots is the name of this one. Maybe it'll be my next top seller like Ron and Hermione forever. Okay. Let's go back to the light box for a second. I want to show you guys something that I know that my son is super proud of, Miles. And I also just want to give you guys a little sneak peek into the Casa Pinka yarn pairings that I have. And then we'll pretty much be done for the night. All right, so my son is home with me, of course, for quarantine, and he wanted to learn how to dye yarn with mommy. So I said, come on, you little boy, let's do it. And this is the color that he came up with. Isn't that gorgeous? So we used, because he's a little guy, we used Wilton gel icing dye instead of my professional acid dyes. And he chose the color himself. I helped him with dipping the yarn into the jars. And this is a sock weight yarn that I paired with this lovely green. This is kind of a cool little yak blend. And so they pair well together. I mean, right there you can see that these colors are matching up. So this is my Texas Bluebonnets and Emerald City. Miles was the one that chose these yarns, and then this one was a skein that I already had. And it is a Casa Pinka pairing in my Etsy shop. There's only one of its kind, of course. And it is available to you. So when you buy a Casa Pinka pairing listing from my shop, you're buying the yarn for the shawl, and then I send you a free code. You go to Ravelry, download the pattern for free, and you knit it up, and it's jolly good fun. And so it's that shawl that we were looking at earlier with God of Thunder. Another cool pairing that I have that I'm actually quite surprised has not sold yet is Professor Trelawney and Piercing Blue Eyes. So this is a single ply merino silk, 70/30 merino silk, superwash of course. This is Professor Trelawney. And I love the periwinkle that comes through, this lovely hunter green, and of course like that earthy brown, right? Because Professor Trelawney, she's a little bit of a hippie. And so this one paired with Piercing Blue Eyes is this semi-solid with this blue, but it's got these beautiful pops of white. So this is the last one of its kind too in my Etsy shop. Just look for that section called Casa Pinka Pairings and you'll find it. Yeah, that one's gorgeous. Surprised it has not sold yet. It will. Now, here is another pairing of Professor Trelawney in a different yarn base, and this is Hermione. So Professor Trelawney in that last skein was a single ply merino silk. This is a, I guess, 3 or 4 ply 50/50 merino silk. So it's so lovely and drapey. It's got more of that green, but I think that this pink balances it out. And look at that lovely periwinkle paired with that pink. Oh my gosh. See, y'all are lucky that I've listed these for sale. I would just knit them all up myself if I were me. Oh gosh, but I am me. Okay, and here is the final one I'm going to talk to you about. That is the very special. Oh, thank you, Terry. That was very helpful. Yes, that's my Etsy shop link. Go there now and get these pairings. These pairings are not going to last because that code goes live June 5th through the 7th, and those are the only days that you can buy the pattern or get the pattern for free. Afterwards, it's not going to be available. All right, this is the best mistake that has happened in the last 3 months. This is gone forever. So I was dyeing up Ron and Hermione Forever, and I may have walked away for a few hours, and then I came back, and all of my colors for Gone Viral were sitting there on the table. And I flipped the yarn over, started to fill in, and instead of burgundy for Ron and Hermione, I put in this hot pink. And y'all, oh my gosh. And then I said, oh no, I ruined my yarn. But no, I didn't. Because instead of the teal, I just went over with turquoise. I did some of the gold. And then of course I didn't do the gray in Gone Viral. But it's a perfect hybrid. So here's the deal. Why is this one white, Ashley? Why? Because when you purchase this listing, you tell me what you want your semi-solid yarn to look like. It's a kind of a collaboration between you and I. So yes, Terry, I love this one too. It's been popular. The day after I posted Gone Forever in my shop, it sold right away. Okay, so I do want to tell you that one of my favorite things is to collaborate with my customers. And so if you are a fan of the hot pink and you are like, oh my gosh, a hot pink would pair so perfectly with that, you buy the listing, I dye this whatever you want it to be. I only have 2 more of those. The last one is Tiger King. So I'm going to show you that one real quick. Another fluke. Tiger King was a complete mistake. I was dyeing a yarn called Hedwig. And the Hedwig yarn looks awesome, but you know, my first skein of Hedwig really blew goats. So I turned this one into Tiger King. And so like if you're a lover of like that gold, then I would dye this one like semi-solid gold for you, and we would pair it together for your Casa Pinka shawl. And y'all, it doesn't have to be the Casa Pinka shawl, of course. It could be another shawl pattern that you're in love with. And then you just save your Casa Pinka code. You get the free pattern and you save that for another time. You know. All right. So that is it for Satur-Dye Night Live. Thank you so much for joining me on the 5th of June. That's our Yarn Dyeing 101 class where I talk about your personal protective equipment. And then next Saturday, on the 6th, I will be talking about jewel tones, earth tones, and any other kinds of tones I can talk about. And Yeah, so thank you so much for joining me, and I will post pictures of the finished skeins that I learned some lessons from tonight. And thank you all. Mark your calendars for Friday and Saturday next week, 7 p.m. on Facebook. Bye!